Sure. I've been interested in photography since the fourth grade, and I fell in love with it then. I remember as a child just being fascinated by, the little brownie cameras, and then getting taking the roll down to the drugstore and getting the ragged, jagged edged pictures back, was just so exciting. I mean, it just it's been a part of my life forever, and I think it's pretty much kind of it's really influenced my life in a lot of ways. And one of the things it's done is allowed me to travel, and which I probably would never go to some of these places if it weren't for photography. In fact, I'm leaving on Tuesday for a trip to Mongolia. And so if it wasn't for photography, I'd probably, who knows, I'd probably never go there. So, so it's been a lifelong journey for me, and I still enjoy it tremendously.
Okay, well, I welcome, and I'm glad you were able to do a presentation for us tonight. Why don't we go ahead and get started then?
Okay.
What are you going to do tonight, by the way?
I am going to present a program that I created a few years ago, and it's called Less is More. One of the reasons I did this program is because a camera club up here in the Sacramento area asked me to do a critique for them. And so I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And then when I touched bases with them the couple of days before the critique, they said, "Oh, no, we want you to do a program." And so I'm like, okay, I have no program to present. And so I just quickly decided, you know what, I'll just throw a program together about how I photograph things. And so that's kind of how this program evolved.
Okay. Before we do get started, Elizabeth, I've got a secondary screen with just the attendance, pictures of the attendance, and it's overlaying the screen that has her presentation.
Okay,
so there's
if you
two
go on the
screens, one on top of the other.
If you go on the top where it says view everyone, you can tell it hide everyone, which makes Jan's screen bigger.
Okay. All right. Now what I get is a screen with everybody on it. Now that I've hidden everybody, there's a screen on top of this screen. I'm not sure.
Well, that one is on Jan's, and so Jan's going to move her presentation on top of this one, I believe, right, Jan?
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. I think. So if you're ready, I can share my screen then.
Yep.
Okay, please.
Looks like I got to go through this again. Whoops, that's
I thought you just slid it off the side.
There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is enlarge that. So I can't really see anybody, but I hope that's okay. So I don't know if you can see me, but I don't think that really matters. Can you see me okay? Or
well, if we do hide everyone, then you're hidden, and it makes your screen bigger. So
okay, so less is more is kind of the thing that I like most about my own photography, and this program is kind of about what I look for in a photograph. And I'll do this by using examples of my work, and we'll talk about things like light and shadow and how to recognize good light and things like that. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because there's a lot of information here. And so we'll jump right in. I hope this will work. So less is more is the notion that simplicity and clarity lead to good design. That which is less complicated is often better understood. So first we're going to start off with light and shadow. So you want to train your eye to recognize good light, and questions you might ask yourself. Is the light coming through the window in a beautiful way? Is it creating unique shadows? Look for irregularities in light and you'll often find your best photographs. So this is an example of something that I took with my iPhone. I was up in Fort Bidwell and I had to use the restroom, and they had this lovely, you know, clawfoot bathtub in there, and the light was just gorgeous. This is a very, very early photograph that I did years ago, but what attracted me again was the light and shadow. An infrared shot, again, light and shadow is what really catches my eye. And here too. So, so this, I play with light and shadow a lot. Here's another example of just, you know, just finding the light is key and just seeing what develops. And so I think I perhaps took this can and maybe moved it into the light to create the shadow. So looking for the light and how it contrasts with the shadow is I'm always looking for that. This is something else that I shot from really long distance, and what caught my eye was the shadow of this woman in on the wall there, with the light surrounding the shadow. Here's another example, a building in San Francisco with the doors open. So light and shadow can oftentimes, it's so simple and yet can make a very effective photograph. Northern Nevada, light setting on these trees. So I try to use leading lines a lot. Things move along lines, and I use lines to draw the eye in. Lines are vertical, horizontal, diagonal, S-curves, circles, spirals, even implied. And what I mean by implied is that even a person's eyes in a portrait can be a leading line. Okay, so lines exist in every photograph and use them to your advantage. The lines here of the window panes are lead your eye right into the chair. This little creek works great as a leading line. And of course, you know, this is always kind of fun to do, making sure there's no traffic coming. So, and this is what I mean by implied lines. The implied line here is the direct connection with this young man's eyes and the viewer. Little squiggles in the sand here can create leading lines. So always look for leading lines and again, use them to your advantage. One thing I always try to do, and this is again what I found most about what I like about my own work, or what I try to achieve, is simplify compositions. And it is by great economy of means that one arrives at simplicity of expression. That was quoted by Henri Cartier-Bresson. Key word is uncluttered. Change the light, blur the background, zoom in, recompose, and fill the frame. So those are all things you can do to eliminate that uncluttered look. And here I've just used the golden spiral to kind of show you how you can see these implied lines in Lightroom, for example. So the rule of thirds, if you go to using the rule of thirds, or if you have your grid up in develop mode, you press the R key for cropping and then toggle the O switch, and you'll get these different grids. And so it's really interesting to use them all and see how things fall into place. So again, here's a composition that, you know, it's okay, but there's a lot of dappled light in there, and it really detracts from the image itself. And so what I wanted to do is to somehow simplify this peacock. And so this is what I ultimately arrived at. So I've sort of desaturated the highlights and really brought him into kind of a portrait mode. Again, this simplifying the composition, all I did was use what I did basically here is just get rid of any, I went under the pier more or less to eliminate the lights that were obviously coming from the top of the pier, because there were lights that were they would just detract from the image if I had moved out further to the right and left them in. Simplifying the composition here is kind of self-explanatory. The rocks were just crystal clear, and they were so colorful, and so this is just a very simple composition, and yet somewhat effective. And here again, just using a simple composition by using the elements, or the rule of odds here, using 3 flowers creates a little bit more interest in the image. And here is where a simple composition, and yet I use the horizon line directly in the middle. And that's okay to do. You don't have to use the rule of thirds in every image. And so by using this directly in the center, you get this kind of nice mirrored image look. Visual weight. Balance and counterbalance. All elements in a photograph have visual weight. Color, contrast, size, texture, and focus. All those things can play a part in visual weight. No single part of the image should become too weighted compared to its other parts. So for example, this is a picture I took with the iPhone, and this is a kind of a good example of something that's not visually weighted, because all the weight tends to be to the right. There's a lot going on the right side, but very little on the left. So this is an example of probably what you don't want to do. This, however, is, this has to do probably more with negative space, balancing out this girl in blue. And there's a balance here between the texture, the lines in the wall, and the girl in the blue. This is balanced out by the tree on the right and the waterfall on the left. And here, this is balanced out by the table with the 2 chairs and the piano in the background. This is a saloon in Bannock, Montana. Here, this is balanced out by the agave plant on the left and the 2, can't think of the name, the trees on the right. Quiver trees, thank you. And this is an image balanced out, obviously, by the boy on the left. And I'm really glad that he opted to stand. He just sort of posed for me without really thinking. He's an orphan, and he was scrubbing the floor. And so I asked him if I could take his picture, and he just stood up straight, and it balanced out very nicely with a red door on the right side. Symmetry creates its own balance. And so this is kind of self-explanatory too, but it's balanced simply by the nature of the symmetry. Okay, negative space. Provides the weight that brings the image into balance, forces attention on the subject. Space is defined when you place an object into it, while the object is defined by the space around it. Forms an interesting or artistically relevant shape. So for me, I like to explain that there's a difference between negative space and empty space. So here the negative space really balances this little flower pretty well. And here the light is what balances out. This is that pier again, the same pier, but the light and the dark really tend to balance out the pier on the left. Just the space around a subject is negative space. Anything that will support the subject, I like to think of as negative space. Now, this almost verges on empty space. And what I mean by empty space is that there may be too much of it. In other words, if it's not helping the image, maybe you don't need it there. And so maybe it should be cropped. Here again, this portrait is balanced by the negative space around this elder in the Maasai tribe. And I sort of had to stick this one in. This is my granddaughter. She's a gymnast. And so this is actually a composite. And but I really like the negative space around her. And this is just kind of a fun image too. It's not really a great photograph, but I love the lines in here that help to create that negative space for this American kestrel that's just taking off. So it's just kind of different than, you know, just a normal bird photograph. So shoot what you see. Remember that content is king. Isolate what appeals to you about your subject. Is it the light, the color, the shape, or texture of the subject? Does it tell a story? Subject isolation helps to clarify what a photo depicts. This little blue or purple flower just popped out of this field of poppies and made quite a statement. So this is what I saw, and this is what I photographed. By the way, if anybody has any questions, please just chime in. This is actually looking, this is at Death Valley, looking across the parking lot of Stovepipe Wells. And the sun was setting and the light on the hills here was just beautiful. And so that's what I saw. That's what I photographed. I loved this white horse walked up in a corral next to me, and what I saw was the mane and the clouds behind him. This was originally color, obviously, but I turned it into black and white, and for some reason I just really like this image. Here's kind of a childhood memory for me. My parents and I always used to stay in the tent cabins at Yosemite. I liked this image, but I wasn't crazy about it because the sky, the lightness of the sky just draws your eye right up and away off the tent cabins. And so I recreated this and made it into this. So fortunately, all the lights were on in these tent cabins. This is again a clean image, but you can see these strands of grasses were really close to me, so they created this dark blur. And so I decided to go in and just do this to it. And fortunately, I was close enough that I was able to crop this and get a really, really close in image of this egret. This tree just stood out for me, and it just, here's a kind of almost a monotone image of green, and so it just popped off the screen, and that's what I ended up with. Okay, backgrounds, edges, and horizons. Does the background serve to separate and highlight the subject? Does it add value to the image? If not, remove it. Keep an eye on edges and horizons. And I have gotten to the point where I do this almost instinctually. And I'm always looking for, here again, this is Mesquite Dunes in Death Valley. And I liked this image, but the problem with it is my eye gets just drawn away up into the sky because it's so bright. So I recreated this, or recropped it actually, and now all of a sudden I'm looking at detail in the sand and a little bit of light on the dunes in the back. Here's another one where, you know, it's a nice picture of these water buffalo, but the you know, they're attentive, they're looking at something, but there's something about the left side that I didn't like. It's, you know, it cuts off the herd. And also there's that, again, that white sky is somewhat distracting. So this is pretty much the same image. It's not the same image, but you can see where I took a separate image, I think. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, you can see the difference between the two images. So one looks like that and one looks like that. And it's a matter of which one you like better. Here's an image where I really liked, I was able to shoot this guy. He works at the Havana Club. And so he's standing out there just kind of waiting for people, or, you know, who knows. But I had all this weird stuff, you know, happening on the sides and everything. So I took this into, I believe it was Lightroom, and I straightened the image, and I was able to eliminate all those distractions that were hanging out on the edges of the frame. And so this is a much better recreation, I think. And again, it's been simplified to the point where it's more direct and enjoyable now. And here's an image that this building was fascinating to me. And fortunately, I was able to, I just happened to time it right where this couple was walking towards me. But you can see this, and this is how, you know, kind of picky I am. There's some guy's arm here on the right, and that just, to me, that just ruins the image. So all I did was crop it, just slightly take it out, and now your eye can just, you know, go straight to the couple and enjoy the fact that they're kind of walking next to this really unusual building. I'm pretty critical about whether or not a horizon is level or not too. So here's an image in Alaska. This was actually Kodiak Island, and this is an old piece of it's a piece of rust, but the horizon isn't straight. So our brain, the human brain, wants things to not be chaotic. It likes to create order from chaos. And so by straightening the horizon, now it looks like a real image. Now it looks normal. Okay, this is hard to read because we can't see any separation here between the letters. Many images just don't make sense to the eye visually where things merge together. So this looks much better. Allows space and separation to create repetition and order. Many images just don't make sense. Avoid physical overlaps whenever possible. So here you have a flock of shovelers taking flight, and really there's no way you're going to be able to separate these birds. So what I'm talking about with separation is using probably fewer than 7 subjects. And when you get a group like this, it's okay too. It's just a different, it's a different look. So it's a different feeling. So here's a group of trees in Yosemite, and trees are very difficult to shoot. But what I tried to do here was to isolate this one curved branch in the front. And so by doing that, it kind of makes its own statement. But it's really hard to find those little nuance details in an image like this. Here, a beach scene, and I really tried to make sure that the angle that I was shooting at, that I had the rocks kind of separated from each other. I didn't want one necessarily overlapping, one in the back or in the foreground. Here is a flock of, now this is obviously more than 7 birds, but this was a great opportunity to shoot this many birds and have them all separate from each other. There's no overlapping here. These are Aleutian geese, which are different from the Canada goose geese. So they come into the valley in the wintertime along with all the cranes. And I shot this from the window of the Jeep. This was 4 burros in Death Valley that just happened to pose for me perfectly. And it's not so much that the burro in the front, the one in the back on the left side, yeah, he is overlapping a little bit, but the important thing here is that you're seeing his eyes, and that's that line of communication again. Here's a Death Valley too. That's my husband in the back there, way in the back, and that's his cousin in front of him and his wife in front of him, who's also a Jan, and we're both Jan Lightfoots. But I took their picture and had them stand at different lengths between each other, but again separated them from each other. And so I just think it's a fun way to pose people. Namibia, and I wanted to make sure that each tree was separated from the other tree. And again, some sandhill cranes with that separation. Okay, rule of odds, similar to the rule of thirds, and it's more of a guideline, really. The rule of odds suggests that an odd number of subjects in an image is more appealing than an even number. Even numbers do tend to compete for attention. So I do like using the rule of odds when I can. I guess there was a study done at one point where they actually found out that that people will look longer at an image if there's an odd number of subjects in it than they will if there's an even number. So it tends to draw in attention a little more. So 2 boys walking on a wall to school, and it's a nice picture, but and I really don't have a problem with this, but if you throw 3 in there, it gives it just a little bit more interest. And you can see that by adding that 3rd boy in the back, he's kind of got his arms out, and they're all walking at a different pace, and so it just kind of makes it just a little bit more interesting. Here's an even number of, these are Canada geese, and this is an even number, and you can kind of see where, you almost tend to group them in pairs and look at them that way instead of 4. But this, I actually took 1 bird out, and there he is. The 5th one is behind there, just so you can see the difference. The 5th bird just tends to create a little bit more interest in the scene. 3 nuns. Here you have 3 different primary colors that can also define the rule of odds. So whether it's people, subjects, color, contrast, or whatever, if you want to keep an image simple, find those simple kinds of compositions, whether it's color or subjects or whatever. Here's the pile of canoes, and I'm obviously using the rule of odds here on the orange one, the blue one, and the yellow one. 3 bears. There's a reason, by the way, there's a reason why authors, use titles like, The Three Bears, or Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or The Three Musketeers. If you look at titles or literature, things like that, you'll often find titles with the word three in them quite often. Multi-layering. Multi-layering is simply a way of adding depth by using foreground and background elements. It allows your eye to be led through an image and bounce from one object to the next in a way that's visually compelling. So I like using multi-layering. Wide angle lenses are great for this kind of landscape scenery, if you will. I don't even, this was taken so long ago, I don't even remember what lens I used, but definitely a wide angle, and using a real small depth of field such as f/16 can allow you to get these kinds of images. Death Valley, again, this is ibex dunes down in the southern part of Death Valley. This is a street in South Africa. And I love using, when I'm doing street photography, I love using things on the streets that create depth. And this manhole cover creates a lot of, helps to create depth within the image. And here's another example of using something in the street for street photography, or the lines in the crosswalk. This one also, and of course your foreground element is the two women, and then it just kind of takes you back into the scene and you're looking at other different things. Grace Cathedral art installation several years ago that I photographed, and this is with a 15 millimeter wide angle lens. But again, getting that foreground element and just allowing your eye to be led into the image. A foreground element here is the guanaco with the mountains in the background. And again, flowers. I mean, in most landscape scenes, this is the kind of thing you want to look for, are these multi-layering textures and colors and that sort of thing. Okay, nuance and gestures are subtle expressions in visual form. Gesture is the expression that is at the very heart of everything that we shoot. Jay Mizell. Gesture is what creates the story. And in fact, I kind of wanted to, I might change the title here, Nuance, to Gesture, because they're very similar in a lot of ways. But I think most people do relate to gesture. So here, I mean, gesture is in everything. It can be in landscape images, it can be in people images, animal images, especially animal images, whatever. But here the gesture is that nothing is touching. Nothing, the tree in the background is separated by the tree that's in the foreground. And so by shooting through the tree to the other tree, you have this, you're creating a gesture here. This is, I don't know, this is one of my favorite elephant images, because this elephant was patiently waiting for all the herd in the background there to leave this particular area. So it was making sure that everybody was, accounted for and everything. But what's really great about this image is you probably can see it. You can probably guess what it is. It's that little cattle egret in the bottom. He really makes this image. And so it's just that subtle nuance that can make or break an image. Namibia, again, this, I love the way this line of dark and light, of the shadow of the dunes, comes down, and it just, it just comes right down into the center of the tree. Okay, so in nature and landscape, again, these nuances can really make a statement. This image is Torre del Paine in Chile, and this was this was a group of photographers, and we were all lined up on the rocks here. I had this particular spot. We were waiting for sunset, and I was really hoping that I could capture the sunset with the pink skies and everything, and reflect it in the water. Here you see the nuance here is that the line of the rocks actually imitates the line of the reflection in the water. And so I was really excited about this, and lo and behold, the wind came up and it completely destroyed this composition, and it was a beautiful sunset, but it was all windy and the waves were crashing, and I didn't get it. This is Landis, and I was talking to Landis when I was shooting, what was I shooting? Carnival in San Francisco. Anyway, he posed for me, and I think he was smoking a joint there. I don't know if it was a cigarette or a joint, but anyway, nevertheless, he gestured with his finger, and that gesture, the fact that it was foremost and forefront in the image, kind of describes his character. So I really like that image as well. Here the nuance is, I was fascinated by this bed sheet kind of like just draping on the floor. It was just kind of a neat nuance. This is at the John Muir House in Martinez. But I took it I needed to do some post-processing on it. And so this is what I ended up with. And just that subtle nuance of the bed sheet on the floor is what I like about this. Okay, that decisive moment. We all know about the decisive moment. Stay with the moment, remain aware of the potential confluence of events. And this is so true. Your eye must see a composition or an expression that life itself offers you. And you must know with intuition when to click the camera. So that basically means you got to know your camera. You got to know, what your camera is capable of, what it's going to do. And then you have to know what life is presenting to you. And, that decisive moment is what changes everything. So, for example, I was at the Golden Gate Fields, and this happened. And I was photographing. I was real lucky because I was photographing the horse going into the gate here, and this is what happened. And so fortunately everybody was okay, but it was pretty scary. Here's a sea lion that I captured, and I watched this sea lion for quite a bit. In fact, there were several sea lions that I was watching, and I noticed how the position that they took when a wave was going to crash over them, and they always put their head up and tip their head into the wave, and so it would just break over them nice and easily. So I was able to capture this kind of cool wave on these cool rocks with this cool sea lion as my subject. This was kind of fortuitous. This raccoon happened to photobomb my picture of the American bittern here. And I really lucked out here because I was photographing away on the bittern, and I was photographing, and several shots, firing several shots off, and all of a sudden this raccoon pops up. And I just happened to be, I was so fortunate because the raccoon's eyes are separated by the beak of the bittern, and so it just ended up perfect. So I was real lucky with this. I was real lucky with this one too. The Blue Angels flying in front of the Transamerica building in San Francisco. And all these I was very lucky with. Again, it's knowing your camera and knowing, you know, realizing what you're seeing in front of you and making it happen. So I love this little image of this little boy because of his shirt, rock star on his shirt, and then the welcome words on the floor there, and then these words on the stairway to heaven. I mean, it all came together really nice. Decisive moment, catching this guy windsurfing, and again, an expression caught while this ride was just flying around in circles. Graphic elements. The ingredients of a graphic element are shape, form, line, color, texture, pattern, and a dash of striking, usually comprised of man-made objects, but also found in nature. So there's many images that I see that have graphic appeal, and they're a lot of fun to do. So I'll just kind of go through these here, and if my thing will advance. So, repetitive patterns, color, green, yellow, and blue here. This is in Eastern Washington. Even a close-up of this macaw's eye can be very graphic just by the nature of their beautiful feathers. Patterns and textures, again, repetitive, natural. They can be natural or man-made. They create their own rhythm. Patterns in photography create attention. Use them in obvious and subtle ways. So I love patterns. I'm always looking for patterns. Again, found in nature, they're man-made. Patterns in, I very often shoot landscapes with no sky in them just to get patterns like this. Man-made patterns. These are barrel cactus on a hill, or not on a hill, actually a canyon wall, but they formed a beautiful pattern. And, the thing about patterns is that if you really want to make something striking, you can break the pattern, and you can introduce an element that is totally different than what the pattern is offering. So colored fall colors with a house and so on. So mood changers, or knowing how to use the camera in creative ways. Long exposures, panning, time warps, unusual perspectives. Lenses are also mood changers. That's what I call mood changers, are the type of lenses that you choose. Macro lenses, fisheyes, telephotos, and wide angles. So mood changer here created this separation of clouds. This is a multi-image image. I took several images and then put them together in Photoshop to create this interesting looking cloud. Slow shutter speed or panning. So all kinds of different ways to add more interest to your image. What I find is that sometimes I forget to do this when I'm shooting a subject, and then I think about it afterwards, and I really get mad at myself for not doing it. But try to keep a list on hand of some of the different things you want to try. This is a close-up of, you know, the wind blowing these flowers around. Here's an image using a macro lens. I was right down in the grass shooting this on a hillside. And so those are all poppies behind, which made for a really interesting background. Slow shutter speed again, fisheye, and a very simple image using a wide angle of little tracks going across the sand. Macro lens. I didn't even know I shot this until this is a cropped image, but I didn't even know I shot this until I got the image back home and looked at it on the computer. Wide angle, fisheye on this, lots of fun. It really distorts the subject in a you know, kind of a comical way. And of course, long exposures for stars. Okay, on to aspect ratios. Enhance an image by changing the relationship between width and height. I love using different aspect ratios, and very often I'll, you know, with an image, it won't look quite right until I change the aspect ratio of it. So this is a normal, you know, 2:3, 4:6 aspect ratio. And it has some nice horizontal lines in here of the ice. And so I actually made this into a 16:9. And so it just, you know, you can use this for different types of, I use it for horizontal lines, especially because it really enhances the horizontal lines. Here's another one of just the dunes, and it's nice in that aspect ratio, but creating 16:9 is just a little bit different. It's a different look. And same here. Just by reducing the sky in here, you can do that by simply making it as 16:9. I'll go back. Well, I guess I won't go back. Okay, go to that one. Okay, from that one to that one. So you're basically simply kind of cutting out some of the sky, but it enhances those lines in there. And reducing the scene to something less, it can be tempting to include everything you see in front of you. Often that just means more distractions. Everything in your image should be there for a reason. If any element doesn't add to the composition, it often is taking away from it. So here's an image shot in Yellowstone, and I was trying to shoot a nice sunset. But I just wasn't real excited about it. And I took this picture, but in looking through it in post, I realized that the real interest was down here by the water. And so I simply cropped it and made a less complicated image, simplified it, and I think it ended up a lot nicer. Here's an image too, shot in Yellowstone, and this is nice. This is I think a area where I can't remember where it is, but I think this has been photographed on occasion by different photographers. So it's a nice place to photograph these straight tree trunks, but it's nice. But when you eliminate the sky and create a new aspect ratio, it totally changes the feeling of it. Again, including the sky here is great and everything. This is a nice scene, but finding an image within this scene, and you have something like this, which really isolates the details. Whoops. This was kind of fun because when you can see what's going on here is the clouds are creating shadows on the cliffs of the Grand Canyon. And so what happens when I crop it into less of an image, okay, it really creates this abstract look. And not many people can quite figure out what's going on here, but that's kind of why I like it. So when you're with a group of people, don't get so caught up in what other people are doing, because if you turn around and go the other way, you might find something that is, you know, very unique. You may find your own vision, and you might get out of your comfort zone. This is a scene we were shooting eagles up at Klamath, and instead of shooting the eagles, I turned around and saw this pond with these pretty branches coming through, and it intrigued me. Shot it. This young woman, she's pregnant, and everybody was taking her picture, and she was having so much fun. She was enjoying the attention so much, and so everybody kind of wrapped up their conversations because they had to go on and do some other, you know, photographs. And so I just kind of stuck with her. And this is what, when she walked away, this is what I saw. And I just love this picture because she is just, she's so happy right now, and she feels so good about herself because she had that attention. And you can see it in her gesture here. This was again down in Chile, and everybody was photographing the mountains. And I looked to my left because everybody was shooting to the right. I looked to the left, and way down towards the left side of the lake, there were 2 flamingos. And so I walked that way. Nobody else was walking that way. And at one point, they actually took off and flew across the water. And I'm not kidding you, this is the very last frame that I shot in my camera before the card was full. So again, fortuitous kind of situation, but nobody else got this shot. Getting in close with, there's at Yosemite Falls, this rainbow is just, you know, it comes across at a certain time of day, and if you're not on it, everybody's shooting the falls from someplace else. But I was definitely following the rainbow here, and this is the image I got. Another Yosemite image where just walking through the sentinel trees, I saw something that nobody else did. I don't think, oh, and this one, Yosemite also, just shooting up from tunnel view, shooting upwards into the sky pretty much, instead of shooting the valley below. For some reason, my keys aren't working very well. I apologize. Okay, thinking in black and white. The absence of color allows light and shadow to become more significant. Okay, Mare Island. This was a moonless night, but lots of fun. Some of this stuff isn't even here anymore. This Quonset head on the right is gone. Shadows over the hills in Death Valley. Those are Mesquite Dunes, shooting towards the west, I believe. Well, don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure it's Mesquite Dunes. Bodie, and this is out in the middle of nowhere, between Death Valley and Gold Point, abandoned ranch. But this particular scene just intrigued me. So again, using black and white, you know, in the absence of color, can really it can really create some interesting images. But you just have to be looking for that light and shadow. Okay, nominees for best light are the golden hour, the cool blue hour, natural lights. There's all kinds of lighting, overcast skies, diffused light. You know, there's just a multitude of different lighting situations. Early morning, again, the moon setting over Death Valley. The window light from a fishing boat in early morning. using the light, even if that morning glow is gone, you can still use the sun as kind of a, you can create light rays from the sun by putting it behind something and a small aperture. Using light tables is a lot of fun. You can create artificial light and shoot things on light tables, like boxes and so on. I've done a lot of that during these quarantine days. It's lots of fun. And even in the middle of the day, using the colors using color contrasts, such as this in bright daylight is very useful. Again, shooting animals in daylight like this, you can get really sharp pictures because your ISOs are low. So you have a lot of great light to work with when shooting animals in bright sunlight. Backlighting, the backlighting on these just simple, sagebrush kinds of plants and things. Backlight, I love shooting wires like this, telephone wires, and so these are all backlit, and again, taking the color out of it and making it black and white really emphasizes that. And just, here again, that's a fake cow skull. It's not real. Okay. Yeah, just a simple, a simple gray of light on a doorway.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same picture, the picture of the boats from some time ago. I'm not seeing a change in the pictures.
Really? Oh my gosh. Okay. All
Maybe
right.
it's just me.
Can you see a different picture now?
No, I think it's my computer.
How about everybody else? Is everybody else not seeing?
I'm looking at a boat with a cactus in front of it.
Okay. Yeah, so you're seeing the same thing I am.
Right.
Huh. I wonder what's going on here. Let's see.
Just for the record, I see them perfectly. They move. They're not stuck on anything.
Really? Okay.
That's weird.
Some people
So
are
it's
still
working fine for you, but
Yeah, she's moving between images without any problem.
That's the look of the Irish.
Okay, what do you see now? Is it changed?
Nope.
I see an arch with a blue sky in the upper right-hand corner. Boats. Flower.
I got boats.
I got boats. Bonnie Polson texted or chatted, and she says she can't see all your images either, not just my computer.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm on boats as well.
Weird.
What's that?
Pardon me?
I'm on boats as well.
Really?
Oh. They're changing for me. I see her moving between images.
I don't know what to make of that. Well, I wonder if, let's see if, I wonder if there's a different way to do this.
I don't think it's I don't think it's your machine. I think it's something in the bandwidth arena because I'm seeing your images move quite quickly between each other. So
okay. Well, I'm not sure what to do. Let me see if, let me just try one other thing here, see if I can go through and,
hey, Jim, try refreshing your browser up in the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah, try refreshing the browser and seeing if that helps.
Right. Yeah. No, Elizabeth, I'm not on boats. I see her arch, her stone arch right now.
Okay, you see
There.
the art? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you see the flower?
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
Your film strip is moving on the left-hand side just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I switched over to that just so you could kind of shake things up a bit. So these are all the ones I went through, I was talking about earlier. And again, just to refresh, these are, this is all different types of light and what you can do with them. So.
Okay. Yeah, I quit and came back.
Is it back?
I lost my camera, but that's okay.
Oh dear. Okay. Is everybody back with me here?
Here we go.
Or
Something's showing up.
Froze up for a while. I don't know what happened.
Jim had to actually get out and come back in, John. So if refreshing your screen doesn't work, then try that.
I'm up and running now, but I wasn't before.
oops, that's not the one I want. I want this one. Somehow I went full screen there. So does everybody see the red door?
Yes,
I see the red door. Yes.
I can see it.
Yep, I see the red door.
Yay. Sorry about that.
I don't think it's your fault.
Maybe it is the bandwidth. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is. It's not your machine, because if I can see it operating,
right,
then it's sending out the right signal. I think it must be bandwidth or something happened.
right. Okay, well, let me know if it happens again. Okay, and I can rewind a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, Bonnie says she can see the red door.
Okay. Okay. So this is again, light kind of creating a interesting shape on one of the Grand Canyon walls. This went really big, but you can see the same thing happening here. And then cloudy light. I love shooting images on soft days, on cloudy days, because they create such soft light. Portraits are really good if you're shooting outdoor portraits, do it on a cloudy day. So just again, different types of light and how you can use it to your advantage. Okay, just a quick note about architecture. Like horizons, it's all about keeping the lines straight. So with architecture, if at all possible, you want to be able to get up high. If you can go upstairs or something, if you're shooting the city or something like that, try to find, a way where you can, get up higher and photograph buildings. That's one way of photographing architecture. There's many different ways, but that's one way, is getting up high. Keeping lines straight is pretty key. Now, unless you're doing something super intentional, like skewing the lines and doing that on purpose, it has to be pretty definitive. In other words, you want the viewer to know that those lines are skewed, because otherwise it kind of, it's not going to look right. So, so this is all about, symmetry and that sort of thing, and keeping lines straight. Vertical lines, horizontal lines, kind of all have to mesh. So obviously I'm really up high here, and I'm really working at keeping the, not so much the horizon, but the building straight. And this was a hard one to straighten out. This is the hotel in Bannock, and this was I had to work a little bit on this to get the line straight. But again, it's something that you can use in your toolkit to when you're doing architecture, especially, is to keep those lines straight. Okay, post-processing. Always shoot in RAW. Choose your 2 to 3 top favorite software programs and learn them thoroughly. I've tried a lot of different, software programs, and I finally gave up. And I just knew that if I didn't learn the 2 or 3 top favorite ones that I had, I was just going to frustrate myself to no end. So you can find tutorials online or take a class or a workshop. Calibrate your monitor, although I will say that recently I heard one of the pros say that, it's not so important to calibrate your monitor anymore if you have a newer computer. So go figure. Okay. 5 essentials for post-processing. I want to kind of run through those real quickly with you. Is 1, crop and straighten. Now I'm trying to click on this. I'll just run through them real quick. Crop and straighten. Check and adjust white balance. Brightness and contrast. Check that. Sharpness and noise, and vibrance or hue or luminance. So those 5 things are pretty much the normal adjustments that you're going to make in the very beginning. So here's an image of some guanacos that I've never seen. So nobody had seen, even the guide hadn't seen this many guanacos down in Chile and together. And so everybody jumped out and was taking guanaco pictures, but the lighting's flat. It's not real pretty. So in post, this is what I did. And I really created, this may be a little bit overdone, but this is what I wanted it to look like. I wanted it to have that warmth. Here's just an example of, just a raw image with no processing, but with a little processing, those 5 steps that I mentioned, you can really enhance it. Another Grand Canyon image in RAW, and this isn't perfect as I look at it now, but you can see the difference. So there's a lot of information in your RAW images that you can play with. Nice sunrise, but this is probably even nicer. When you compare them, sometimes they can look more saturated, but then you put it away for 24 hours, come back and look at it again and see if it still hits you the same way. Visualization. Having a vision of what you want to convey is like having a roadmap. Without it, you're wandering aimlessly with no certain destination in mind. And you can always create a theme for yourself. Solitude, for example. But when I go out photographing, I always try to create a theme. I want to do birds today, or I want to do this, or and then all the things that I've talked about before, I think about those and eventually come up with something. So just a simple image, taking it to the Golden Gate. What is it? The Palace of where the flowers are. It's where the flowers are. And so I brought it home and I put a little texture on it and kept it simple.
Pretty cool.
Just a portrait of a coyote, took it into Photoshop and did something fun with it. These are simple techniques that you can use. Here's a composite, but I simply did a blend mode on it after it was all done. And this is I think it's called difference blend mode. So just fun stuff. This is actually the doorway of a gallery. I can't really remember why I put this in there, but it's a little different. And you can go as far as creating your own composites. This is one of those things that when I was in Ecuador, and I was able to photograph these toucans. Well, as I'm photographing these toucans, I'm thinking that I know exactly what I want to do with them. And so I came home and I created this composite of 2 cans. Now, some people don't get it, but the title of it is TWO, okay, CA, 2 words, can, CANS, okay? So 2 cans, right? So it's a play on words. And again, like I say, some people get it, some people don't, but it's just fun. And then finally, leave something for the imagination. The expression of the artist is suggestive and kindles thought, and in fact conveys more than is found in its literal interpretation. This was published in 1844. So, it's as true then as it is, it's as true today as it was then. So I like to create images to kind of, leave something for the imagination. Looking at a lone cloud over a sand dune, looking at a kind of a forest of burnt trees. Oops, go back. See, something's going on my end. It's jumping forward and I don't know why it's doing it. And this is a new computer, so I don't know. But anyway, this has a very minimalist feel to it, but the hope is that it does leave something for the imagination, something to think about. This one too, storm clouds. This was taken down by a lancha, believe it or not, and I've never seen storm clouds like this down there since. A driver, what's he doing, what's on his mind, it's creating question marks in the viewer's mind. A chair looking out over the ocean in a hotel room with nobody sitting in it. It's inviting. It's asking you to contemplate whatever you might be seeing in the picture. What is going on out there? That sort of thing. And finally, I do a lot of composites. I enjoy it a lot. And so I think I call this the season of winter. And so it's just trees that I took into Photoshop and just, did a blur on them and created this image. Even the iPhone can be fun to use and create different images. So all these things combined just have become part of what I do when I take my pictures. And so I hope that some of this rubbed off on you and that you enjoyed the presentation, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, Jan. I have computer problems tonight, so I came in a little late, but looking forward to seeing you on YouTube.
Did you record this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's cool. I'm trying to get back into, let's see, I can reduce this now and get back into, there we go. So now I can see you. So, okay, good. Yeah, you should shoot me a note and let me know when it's posted.
Yeah, Elizabeth will probably be able to do that. She's
Okay.
the one that posted.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, now I want to go out and shoot.
Yeah.
How often do you get out, Jan?
How often do I get out?
Yeah, to shoot.
Oh, well, it's hard. It's hard. I would love to be shooting every day, but every day I have stuff that life takes over and it's just really hard to get out every day and shoot. But and especially during the quarantine, it hasn't been as easy. But like I said, I've got 3 big trips coming up this year, so I'm really excited. And so that will be the bulk of my photography for the year. But I love to go out and photograph birds around Sacramento, throughout the valley here. And that's one of my kind of things right now is to, birds are everywhere. They're in your backyard. I've got feeders out and everything. So, and everybody can photograph birds. So it's something that I've really kind of honed in on, is to go out and photograph birds whenever I can.
Yeah.
Street
Well, thank
photography
you
is a little
very
hard.
much for giving us your presentation. I really enjoyed it myself. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for having me.
all right, I think that we need to conclude here.
All right, thanks, Jan.
You bet. You bet. Thank
Thank
you.
And thank you, Jonathan, for lining up Jan.
Sorry I tuned in so late.
That's okay. Have you missed
Okay.
anything?